Hey guys, Tomboy601, and today we're taking a look at the Tier 4 heavy cruiser, the Hawkins, the all-new tech tree ship for the British Navy. She's a heavy cruiser. We're going to be taking a look at a build for her, the stats, her loadout, all of that, also the history of the ship, and a full game in her. So if you like all of that, be sure to stay tuned. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and talk about our comment of the day. Comment of the day goes out to a viewer who leaves a comment on one of our previous videos. Today's comment of the day goes out to Jeffrey Griffin, and he says, I disagree with your fastest way to stop. I have found that smashing into an island or a teammate at full speed stops me the fastest. And I have to say, that when I saw that, it made me actually laugh out loud, and that's why you're getting comment of the day today. Of course, that was left over on our Mythbusters episode 1. In that episode, we took a look at the fastest way to stop and if torpedoes have dispersion. If you're interested in those, I'll of course leave the video in a card for you to click on if you would like to go and check out that video. But enough about that. Let's go ahead and talk about the Tier 4 heavy cruiser, Hawkins. First off, to earn her, currently she is in early access, so the only way to get her as of currently is through Royal Navy cruiser crates or big Royal Navy cruiser crates. Those can be earned either through purchasing them, or you can also earn them in certain challenges, and they are also in the current campaign. Just to give you an idea, the Hawkins currently has a 5% drop rate in the regular Royal Navy cruiser crates and a 10% drop rate in the big Royal Navy cruiser crates. So those are what the drop rates are looking like. Next, let's go ahead and talk about her build and her stats. Currently, I have the Victorian camo equipped to her. Victorian camo is available in the campaign. It arrives as a tier 1 permanent camouflage, so only offering 0.5% reduction on sea detectability range and a 0.5% increase in incoming shell dispersion. But hey, it's still an advantage, and you can always equip and upgrade that camo. Let's go ahead and talk about her loadout and specifically the upgrades that you can equip. Now, in the first mod slot, you have this standard first mod slot. I went ahead and picked out aiming system because I think that's kind of the default. It's a safe option. She does have somewhat slow turret traverse, so there is an argument to be made for equipping the main battery mod to increase that main turret traverse by 15%, but I didn't want to take the hit in reload speed. Next, she has 3 upgrades that you can get throughout her career. A gun upgrade that is going to reduce the reload time and decrease the 180 time. The targeting system, which of course is going to increase that firing range by 10%. And then the hull upgrade, which is going to increase your hit points and decrease rudder shift time. Personally, I went for the artillery mod first just because I felt that the reload time is very long, and anything that can help increase that damage per minute is going to be something that's useful. I went for that, followed by the Hawkins hull, and then finally the targeting system mods. Consumables, she has access to 3 different ones. First is the bare bones damage control party. Has a duration of 5 seconds with a reload time of 60 seconds. She then has access to the repair party. The damage that is recovered per second on that with our current build is going to be 160 per second for 30 seconds and a reload time of 80 seconds. And she does have 2 charges, but 3 if you are running fully packed. Next, and her final consumable is going to be sonar. Detection on torpedoes of those is 2.7 kilometers, with detection on ships being 3.7. Duration of 90 seconds with a reload time of 180 seconds. She does have 3 with fully packed. The commander I'm running to get fully packed is currently John Jellicoe, and I'm using 2 different inspirations of Madden just to decrease that turret traverse and increase that fire rate. And then currently Swirsky, though I definitely think that you could be running Makawa. I just have my Swirsky higher upgraded currently, so I'm getting better concealment numbers out of him. But if you have a fully upgraded Makawa, you're going to get a better concealment number from him. This is just a personal build for me. Next, his skills. First off, the main reason I picked Jellicoe was his base trait. It increases the duration of repair party, so that means you're going to get more out of it. After that, his first skill that I'm picking is Burn It Down, which increases the chance of HE shells causing fire, then increasing the concealment rating with Look at Me Now, then increasing the ship's speed with Malicious, and finally increasing the turning speed with Steer Clear. And the legendary skill that I have picked out is Fully Packed. reason I went with Jellicoe as opposed to someone like Frazier was mainly because he accents some key stats of the Royal Navy heavy cruisers, specifically that being their slow maneuverability, and we are kind of helping that along with increasing the speed and the rudder shift time with his skills, but also we're accenting its strengths with the good concealment and increasing that concealment further, and their good fire starting chance. We're looking at some fairly decent high chance to start fires. So overall, I felt like Jellicoe was the best match, and also we get that bonus of even more heals to try and recover our ship for when we do get in danger. So with all of that said, let's go ahead and talk the stats of this ship with the build. So she is going to have the highest HP at the tier at 32,200 with an armor thickness of between 6 and 76 millimeters and a torpedo reduction of 10%. Let's go ahead and take a look at the armor view. Here is Hawkins in the armor view, and as we can see, she has a fairly unique armor layout, and that is because she was designed with what's called an icebreaker hull, meaning that the hull was designed for kind of Arctic waters and being able to break through the ice, and that means we have some fantastic protection within this hull. The front of the ship, forward and aft, is 38 millimeters, which is going to be able to bounce pretty much any AP shell at the tier, assuming it comes in at the correct angle. But unfortunately, right above it is 14 millimeters of armor, which can be overpenned fairly easily. But still, that bottom lip of the hull means you're going to be able to bully some people if they don't realize where to shoot, or if dispersion kind of falls on the wrong end for them, meaning she does fantastically when she's angled. The only real problem, though, is the positioning of her guns, because you'll only really be able to get 2 guns on target when you are angled completely correctly. Next, let's go ahead and look at her side armor. She does have that torpedo protection, giving us that 10% reduction in torpedoes. Up in the superstructure, not much to say up here. Bridge is, of course, heavily armored at 76 millimeters. Go ahead and get rid of that. Next, we see the casemate armor, and fairly thick for compared to other ships at the tier. 13 millimeters of essentially deck armor right there, and it does a fairly good job of protecting from up above. Next, we have the turrets, and of course, they are 25 millimeters thick, and they do decently. You're not really going to see too many knockouts on the turrets, but even if you do, you have 7 of them to keep rolling and going. And finally, we have that citadel, and as we can see, it is up in above the water, which does make it fairly vulnerable. If you are broadside to someone, you do have a somewhat exposed citadel, but protecting you within that citadel is 76 millimeters of armor. So with the armor and survivability stats covered, let's next move on to the main battery. She has 7 1x190 millimeter guns. She can get 6 of them on target if she is at full broadside. Firing range on them is going to be 13.6 kilometers with a reload time of 12.2 seconds with a shells per minute of 33.6, the second slowest number of shells at the tier. 180 time is 15.7 seconds. When she's firing HE, she fires the second highest damage HE shells at the tier at 3,050 per shell, doing 102,000 damage per minute with a 17% chance of fire. Once again, second best at the tier as far as chance to set fire. AP damage, she isn't as strong here, 4,050 per shell, giving her only 142,000 damage per minute. Moving on, her secondaries, she has 4 2-barreled 102 millimeter secondaries with a range of 4.7 kilometers. Reload on those is going to be 3 seconds with a damage of 1,500 and a 7% chance to set fire. Next, she does have torpedoes, only 2 2x launchers, which kind of make her more of a point defense torpedo launcher. They're definitely defensive torps, but they do definitely pack a punch. Reload time on them, 53 seconds, second quickest at the tier, with a damage of 15,733, which is, I think, the 3rd most damaging torpedo at the tier. Still, very powerful torpedoes, and you don't want to get too close to her, because if she can get those torpedoes off, you might be in for a world of hurt. Detectability range on those torps, 1.2 kilometers, with a speed of 59 knots and a range of only 6 kilometers. Maneuverability stats is where we're going to see her starting to let us down. Max speed of only 30 knots, being the second slowest at the tier. Turning radius 640 meters with a rudder shift speed at a blistering slow 8.8 seconds. Moving on to detectability, she's fairly decent in these stats. Detectability by sea 9.8 kilometers, by air 6.3, and in smoke 5.5. And that goes ahead and wraps up our stat section for the Hawkins. Next up, let's go ahead and talk about the history of the Hawkins. The HMS Hawkins was the lead ship of her class of 5 heavy cruisers built for the Royal Navy during the First World War, although none of them ended up seeing service during that war. The first ship to be completed of this set was the HMS Vindictive, but then she was renamed to the HMS Cavendish, which we all know was converted into an aircraft carrier while she was under construction. All ships were named in this class for Elizabethan sea captains. The class cruisers were designed to be able to hunt down commerce raiders in open ocean, for which they needed heavy armament, high speed, and long range abilities. This was because in the early months of the First World War, German commerce raiding was very effective. Either ships would have to kind of roll their luck and go through the areas where they knew that these ships were operating, or they would have to extend their sailings, go around, and further lengthen journey times. Alternatively, ships could be escorted in convoys, but the British simply didn't have enough ships to maintain this, so that is why the Hawkins class was established. The ships were ordered in December of 1915, and on June 3rd, 1916, the Hawkins was laid down by the HM Dockyard Chatham. Then it was launched on October 1st, 1917, and completed on the 23rd of July, 1919. Now, if you know your history, you know the First World War ended in 1918, so she was kind of a little late for the conflict for which she was designed. Hawkins then became the flagship of the 5th Light Cruiser Squad on the China Station, and she maintained that position for the next 8 years. Now, because of the terms of the London Naval Treaty, it meant that the Hawkins had to be demilitarized in 1937, and she had all of her 7.5-inch guns and above water torpedo tubes removed. In September of that later year, she then became a cadet training ship. When the Second World War began in September 1939, Hawkins had her guns and torpedoes reinstalled, and her anti-aircraft armament was reinforced by the addition of 4 2-pounder AA guns. The ship was recommissioned as a heavy cruiser in January 1940, and she was assigned to the South American Division of the North America and West Indies Station. She patrolled off of South American coasts, searching for the German commerce raiders for most of the next year. In January of 1941, Hawkins began escorting convoys off the West African coast, rescuing 9 survivors from the oil tanker British Premier on the 3rd of January, which had been torpedoed off of Freetown by the German submarine U-65. In February, Hawkins also captured 5 Italian merchant ships, totaling 28,000 gross tons, that had attempted to escape from Kismayo. She returned to the UK to begin a refit at the HM Dockyard at Devonport on December the 4th. Her light and anti-aircraft armament was greatly augmented by the addition of 2 quadruple 2-pound mounts and the exchange of a pair of 2-pounder single mounts for the 7 single-mounted 20mm Oerlikon guns. The refit was completed by May of 1942, and Hawkins returned to the Indian Ocean, where she was assigned to the Eastern Fleet. She resumed her convoy escort duties there and continued to patrol in search of Axis commerce raiders for the next 2 years. Then, in 1944, Hawkins returned home to participate in the Normandy landings. Initially assigned to the 1st Cruiser Squadron of Home Fleet, she was then detached to the Western Task Force Gunfire Support Bombardment Force to support American troops landing on Utah Beach. On the 6th of June, she bombarded the coastal artillery positions at Grand Camp Maisie and St. Martin de Varel to some effect. We're not really sure how much damage she really did. The following month, she was what's known as paid off, and she was sent to Roths in Scotland for repairs and to be converted into a training ship. The conversion, though, was cancelled in May of 1945, and Hawkins was reduced to be in the reserve fleet. In 1947, she was used for target trials to test the effectiveness of 500 and 1,000 pound bombs and was bombed off of Spithead in May. A total of 616 bombs were dropped over 27 days, but only 29 struck the cruiser, and of which 13 failed to detonate. After surviving this, Hawkins was transferred to the British Iron and Steel Corporation, and on August 26th, 1947, she was broken up, and that was the end of her. So yeah, that's the history of the Hawkins. Not a exemplary combat record, but definitely an interesting one, and one that reminds us that there are always interesting stories to be told about these ships. So with that said, let's now go ahead and take a look at a battle in the Hawkins. So here we are, guys, on straight, and if you can look at that flag layout, you immediately know we're not in your usual domination game. We are in the airstrike mode. Figured it was best to try out the Hawkins and see what her AA performance was like as well, and airstrike mode was calling my name. I'm in the game with a division mate, and we're going to go ahead and kind of lock down this side of A, play the traditional side. At first, I was debating going up to B, but then realized with those ships being spotted over there, they're probably going to be bots. We should try to take them out. Turns out, while these first initial ones were the bots, they weren't all bots, and we took out both of the human players on the other team, and that's kind of what I really wanted to showcase with the Hawkins. Anyways, we are going in. We have 3 enemies spotted, a battleship, a cruiser, and a destroyer. Our bot destroyer is headed on in right now, and we're just going to hope that he survives against the enemy destroyer, or maybe they'll take each other out. That's kind of how these things usually go, but hey, we're in the Hawkins. Let's see what we can do. We do have HE loaded just because we don't know what angle these guys are going to be at when we come around. Dyna and the destroyer both head on. We're going to go ahead and fire those torpedoes just to kind of add some confusion and see if we can hit anyone, and we'll go ahead and let those torpedoes fly. Because of the long reload time on the guns, we have time to shop around, and we full broadside and good broadside on the Isokaze. We have a good broadside on that destroyer there. Take out almost half his health, disable his engines, waiting on the reload time. We're kind of looking around, seeing where those torpedoes are, making sure we're not in the way. Another good broadside, 2,500 damage, and we're waiting on the final reload. Hopefully we'll be able to go ahead and take him out. Torpedo coming in from our destroyer. Slight miss there, and we're going to go ahead and finish off the destroyer. He's down. Now we're on to the Dyna or the Julius Caesar. Or actually, Dyna was taken care of, so now we have Julius Caesar. We do run aground here. We were definitely more focused on that destroyer and not the brain, probably like we should have been, but hey, we live and we learn. Now we just have to kind of try to get ourselves unstuck here. But the more time we spend here, the more time that Julius Caesar gets closer to us, and we want that because remember, we have short range torps, and if he wants to play this game aggressive, we'll go ahead and let him. Julius Caesar, usually a very aggressive battleship just because it can bow tank pretty much anything in the game right now, and we're just going to go ahead and let him start encroaching on his space and see if we can get those torpedoes off. We have the full health, and we know we can go ahead and angle against him pretty effectively. We are going to get some decent bounces off of it. First shells come in, we get a bounce right there. Hey, that's exactly what we want. He's now on reload. His secondaries are now opening up. Those take a little bit of hit because they're firing HE and not the full AP. Another salvo comes in. He does knock our front turret, and we take a little bit of damage, but not too much. And now I think he's realizing that he's in a little bit of trouble. We do have those very strong torps. We'll go ahead and put one down and then put one more down on a lead just in case that the aiming indicator was off. First torpedo in, 8K. Second torpedo, another 8K, and he is now severely hurting. We're gonna go ahead and get those guns going. Not able to really pull off, so we're gonna go ahead and start turning around. We've lost engine. He's getting a good salvo. We're no longer angled properly on him, but we're gonna go ahead, turn on around, and try to get our other torpedo launcher out and useful, because this is going to be how we're going to have to finish him. We have a little bit of time because we know he has a fairly long reload, so we're going to go ahead and let that go. One on the midpoint of where he is now and one on the very tail end of him, just in case he goes ahead and reverse. He's not going to be a very fast ship, so we know we should be able to hit him. Both torpedoes find home, and he is down. We are still up. We still have half our health, and we took out a full Julius Caesar of damage, and that's what we like to see. Next, Königsberg, another player controlled ship, so we're going to go ahead, fire off, see what we can do at this angle, and kind kind of start hunting. The plan for me was to try to start hunting their aircraft carrier, but it really wasn't going to be. So we're going to go ahead and take this wide turn this way and take as much time as we can and just kind of try to get back. We're hoping on our division mate to have followed us through that area, but he wasn't exactly up to speed with us. So we are now going to try to kind of bait him back into this side of the strait and hope that our division mate can get a good crossfire on him. Fire is almost out, so we're not going to go ahead and use the repair party on it. We're just going to go ahead and save it. And now we're just kind of trading HE shells, and I'm sort of running, just trying to get him to come back with me to this strait. And that's just what we're doing. Unfortunately, we do have that very slow turret traverse, but we are still waiting on those turrets to find their way back. Now we have our full broadside available to us, and we are getting back to the area, and he is definitely convinced and going to be chasing us. So the next thing we're going to go ahead and do, fire this last broadside, and then start pulling out the torps, because we know if he keeps on this course, we're kind of very limiting him on the angles that he can approach us at, and he seems to be trying to find the most efficient path. So he's probably going to hug that island. So if we can go ahead and fire a torp down that island, ooh, we just take a bomb right there from a plane. Go ahead, pop the repair party. We didn't want another fire at that point, but we know he's going to be chasing us, and he's probably going to try to take the most efficient route, which is near that island. So we're going to go ahead and just fire one single torp there. I love that about the British heavy, just the British line in general, is that single fire torp. We're full broadside. We switched to AP, but didn't end up needing it because that torpedo came in handy. He was definitely focused on us and not the threat of torpedoes. And guys, that is pretty much the game. I'll go ahead and fast forward here just to show you what goes on the rest. It's just us hunting down the enemy carrier and sinking the enemy carrier. That's the rest of this game. But overall, I really, really enjoy the Hawkins. She is a ton of fun. I love being able to bully people in her. I'm looking forward to getting the other British heavy cruisers. I do just like the British cruisers to begin with, so I'm definitely looking forward to getting her other ships in the future. If I don't end up getting them through the campaign or through the airstrike challenges, we'll definitely cover them once they become unlocked on the tech tree. But until we do that, guys, I hope you liked this review. If you did, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all of my social media. That's Twitch, that's Twitter, that's Instagram. All those links down below. And with that said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. See ya.